Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oops.
Maharaj, we're not having your darshan. Your video
Just a second, that's what I'm trying to set right. Some confusion here. Other people also may be using this.
Requesting everyone to put their cameras on, please, for the class, so that Maharaj can see you all.
Yes, very important. What's the use of coming all the way and not being able to get darshan of the lotus face of devotees? So that's why I'm struggling here to make sure that I'm seen. But still there's some problem here. Oh, gosh. Okay, let's change the webcam. We can do that in a jiffy. Okay, I think you can see me.
All right.
Aha, Hari Bol. There's always a way of getting things done. Never give up. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Happy to be here with all of you. Just a minute. Yeah. Sorry. Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sagitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Excuse me for not being a good example for coming on time. Sorry about that. I shall not repeat it again, because this is the last session I have with you.
Maharaj, don't say like this. We are very
This is the last
upset.
session on this particular session. Okay, don't worry. I'm just coming because you have called me.
Good.
In spite of many other things going on here. Hari Bol, Jai. Okay, so can you give me a quick recap? I'm going to torture you with certain things which I normally take great pleasure in doing. I'm going to torture you with certain things which we discussed. A quick recap. Would you like to give me a quick recap of what we did a few days back? Let's see if we can take it from there. What's a quick recap? Yes, go ahead, Sanchi Agrawal.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. We talked about the difference between attachment and affection. You gave the example like if a mother has a baby, so she has a natural affection. But if she indulge more and more into his life, then it becomes attachment, and it can be very harmful for the mother and the baby as well. You gave the example like up to 5 years of age, the mother should give lots of love to a kid, and after that she should send him to the Gurukul so that he can indulge or inculcate a good habits.
Thank you, Sanchi. We just had a big seminar on parenting, and there were some 150 parents who joined from a community, and I heard this from a specialist, from an expert, that they call it from birth to 5 years old, early learning, the most important aspect of your life. And that's the time when you can put everything inside and paying attention to the child, etc., etc. So what you say is reconfirmed. Thank you. I'm going to ask Ratnam Periyaswamy, who sounds very much like he's from Tamil Nadu, to say a few words.
Yes, Maharaj, I already met you. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. I had darshan of you. Yes, Maharaj, like your point
but I thought Prashanta Mataji said that I would be able to see all of you. I'm able to see your beautiful lotus hands in the digital version of it.
No, actually, I am in the puja,
but I wish
anyway,
to see your lotus face too.
I think you can see me. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Wow.
Maharaj, actually, your point that how do we take things for granted and mixing with the opposite sex, and you exactly pointed out that how in period of time, and then we may take the things granted and we may indulge in some unwanted things. So we have to be very strict, and we have to we should not be deviated from our main goal of Krishna consciousness. So that should be our motive. So that point was very very nice, Maharaj.
Jai. Thank you. Sitarani Devidasi.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila
Who are
Prabhupada.
you?
Sorry, Maharaj, I am running into some internet issues. I'm so sorry.
I know you. It's okay.
Okay, so Maharaj, what I remember from last week is that we discussed the case of Bharat Maharaj and how his compassion and natural affection, which was mismanaged, and it resulted in attachment and ultimately obsession, and how he forgot everything, all his devotional practice, and he actually got so enamored by the deer that he ended up taking another birth as a deer. So
yes, that was very wonderful story. Thank you, Sitarani. Lalita Preeti Mai.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, in the last class, we also saw that the affection is spontaneous, or is it cultivated? So we saw that the affection, it comes spontaneously, and if that is not directed in a proper way, like Sitarani Mataji said, Bharat Maharaj was given an example for that. And another two persons who could manage perfectly their affection was one is the Draupadi Devi towards Ashwatthama, and Kunti Devi, that she asked to cut off her affection towards the Pandavas, so she prayed to Krishna.
Okay, I'm going to reveal something else today about Kunti Devi also. Yeah, thank you for that. Ras Leela, Ras Leela, and then Rajeshwar Gauranga will stop there, okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, humble obeisance to you, please. I remember that affection and attachment, they are natural to the jivas. It will happen, but we have to learn how to manage the affection and attachment to the other persons.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting the sadhana of affection and attachment. Thank you. Rajeshwar Gauranga?
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Dhanwad Pranam. Maharaj, you mentioned that most people are not trained to handle, invest, and manage affection. So, affection is all like Mataji mentioned that affection is spontaneous, but affection to be controlled. Like one of the devotees asked that how much to control. I mean, how can you understand that how much affection should be shown? So maybe if I'm not wrong, that you said that. Like our if we feel disturbance in our spiritual practice, like chant sadhana or something else, like deviating from the spiritual perfection, so that means our affection is turning into attachment. So that time we have to control.
Okay.
That is.
Thank you. Thank you. Lokeshwari, you should do a quick and that's yours is the last one. All of us can put on your hands.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lokeshwari.
Hare Krishna, Dhanwad Pranam Maharaj. This is as you said in the class, affection should be managed. It should not become attachment then to madness, as in the case of Bharat Maharaj. And Draupadi Devi and Kunti Devi, how they managed it should be an example for us.
Thank you. So thank you all of you very much for your feedback and for your recap. So here is Srila Prabhupada, embodiment of wonderful affection for devotees, wonderful attachment to Krishna, to the previous acharyas, and an epitome of management of attachment and affection so wonderfully directed towards Krishna. So we, as you already mentioned, saw how Bharata Maharaj somehow, although he was so great, so wonderful, slipped. And this story is particularly mentioned here to caution us. And in that particular purport, Prabhupada keeps saying one has to be cautious, one has to be careful, because this is so subtle a faculty in us, and it is so naturally moving towards matter and material consciousness. And it's got to do with the mind. And if we don't be careful, we saw how Bharata Maharaj moved from compassion and attention to affection, and then attachment, and then intense attachment and madness, completely in the wrong direction. What if I tell you that sequence that we saw, moving towards material madness, intensified and absorbed in attachment of something material, in this case, a young, very small, beautiful looking deer. What if I tell you that that process of this happening is something that we need to understand carefully and manage, so that we can actually, the whole thing about Krishna consciousness is the art of directing one's attention towards the Supreme is called Krishna consciousness. This is Prabhupada's definition of Krishna consciousness. The art of directing one's attention towards the Supreme is Krishna consciousness, which means it starts with attention, then affection and attachment and everything. The same thing we can understand in a different way. And this highlighted in the Bhagavad Gita, the opposite side, which we discussed, that dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamakrodo bijayate krodat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibhramaha smriti bhramshat buddhinasho buddhinashat pranashyati. You know this very famous pair of shlokas, in that how attachment, intense desire to enjoy the object, comes from contemplating on objects of the senses. then unfulfilled desire and anger and delusion and loss of intelligence and fall down, which is what we saw happen to Bharata Maharaj. You must remember this cycle. These elements may not be exactly the same for Bharata Maharaj, but it's much more subtle, very subtle. It was not so much like what we do in the material world in common parlance. It's more subtle. But this process functions everywhere in the material world. It basically is centered around the attachment. So if you invest in wrong attention in the material object, then it will lead you to attachment and lust and anger and doing something very crazy and mad. That is described in the Bhagavad Gita already, and we are familiar with that cycle. What if I tell you now that attention, affection, and attachment should be managed? We're talking about managing attachment now. Yesterday we spoke about, last session we spoke something about affection leading to attachment. I'm talking about the attachment itself now. Can you be without attachment to your family members? Is it natural for a couple, a married couple, if we tell them, do not get materially attached to each other? It definitely sounds very artificial to many, and it sends a very confusing signal. The junction of attachment, that is something very interestingly managed. And this is mentioned by Lord Chaitanya to Raghunath Das Goswami in Madhya Leela. I thought I'll put this up. I wouldn't say that I know exactly what it means, because somebody is going to tell me, Maharaj, you are not married, or you're a sannyasi, or you never got married, Maharaj. What do you know about this? So I'm a little, I would like to take a few steps back. True, I don't know practical experience. Incidentally, in Shankaracharya's life history, you'll see that he was challenged by another debater who was a grahastha. What I'm going to tell you and speak to you is something that you never had experience of. So how do I know you will understand it? He said, why? Because you have never been a grahastha. Shankaracharya took sannyas when he was 7 years old. You know that it's very close by from here, in a place called Kaladi, and the Periyar River. He put his feet inside the crocodile's mouth, or the crocodile caught his feet, and then he told his mom immediately, Mom, I'm going to die now. Please give me permission for sannyas immediately. I'll be able to release myself. And the mom, simple lady, she said, okay, please, my son, okay. And then he released himself from the crocodile by his own mystic potency. He became a sannyasi when he was 7 years old. But later in life, he was challenged like this. So he said, you're right, actually. I must not speak without experience. I have a lot of knowledge. So it's mentioned that he left his body with his disciples in the ashram. And he said, look after it. And he went into astrally projected and went inside a grahastha's body and experienced grahastha life. And after studying it and knowing fully well, he came back. And then he was ready to debate. I just thought I'd share that with you. It's an interesting pastime. So here is a very nice statement made when Raghunath Das Goswami went to see Lord Chaitanya and told him, I just want to come away with you. I want to dance and chant and serve you and be in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. Markata vairagyana kora loka dekhana yata yogya vishaya bhunja anasakta hona antare nishta kora bahye loka vyavahara achirat Krishna tumaya karibe uddhara. Very beautiful shloka. Let me ask somebody to read this. Lalita Preeti. Would you like to read the translation of this?
Yes, Maharaj. You should not make yourself a show bottle devotee and become a false renunciant. From the time beginning, enjoy the material world in a befitting way and do not become attached to it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, within your heart.
You can't see? Oh, you got suspended. Can you hear me, all of you?
Yes, Maharaj.
I think she's got suspended.
Can I read, Maharaj?
Yeah, go ahead.
I will read from the starting. You should not make yourself a show bottle devotee and become a false renunciant. For the time being, enjoy the material world in the befitting way and do not become attached to it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, within your heart, you should keep yourself very faithful, but externally, you may behave like an ordinary man. Thus, Krishna will soon be very pleased and deliver you from the clutches of Maya.
Thank you. See this interesting instruction. He's saying that enjoy the material world in a befitting way and do not become attached to it. It's a very amazing instruction. He's saying, Yata yogya vishaya bhunja anasaktahana. Anasaktahana means don't be attached. Bhunja means enjoy it. You are a grahastha, vishaya bhunja, enjoying the objects of material life. You do that. Yata yogya, what is supposed to be license for you, that you can do. But you should not get attached to it. Look at this instruction. Because he has come to Lord Chaitanya and told that I'm ready to go on sannyas, the Lord Chaitanya sent him back and said, okay, go enjoy and not get attached. Enjoy and not get attached. You should just see very carefully the instruction. It's the most austere instruction to be given to a grahastha. Go on, enjoy, but don't get attached. Just think about it, what it means. So the central thing mostly in Krishna consciousness is not to be materially attached. And we can get materially attached in a sequence of attention, attraction, affection, and then invest emotionally. When you invest emotionally, you become attached. He's telling here, do your duty, enjoy what's required, but don't invest emotionally too much. Now, what does this mean? Here is another quote from Bhagavat. Na tata asya bhavet klesho bandhascha anya prasangatah yoshit sangat yata pumso yata tat sangi sangatah. Right. Who would volunteer to read this?
Can I read it, Maharaj?
Yeah.
Of all kinds of suffering and bondage arising from various attachments, none is greater than the suffering and bondage arising from attachment to women and intimate contact with those attached to women.
Okay. This is all kinds of suffering and bondage arising from various attachments. None is greater than the suffering and bondage arising from attachment to women and intimate contact with those attached to women. In other words, here it means the greatest object of sense gratification for a man. And you can translate that, whether you're a man or woman, into the object of gratification that attracts you more or the most. So you can get tied up like nothing. And that's explained very nicely in the Bhagavatam in many, many places. I don't want to go into the detail and take off the discussion in a different direction. But we have to focus on attachment. It's mentioned here, it causes suffering, bondage, and all sorts of things. Here I'm taking you to another quote on attachment of Srila Prabhupada. Quickly doing this so that you may get some, those people whom I am not able to see, maybe I should call on them to read this. Pundarik.
I think we'll keep zero out and that's it. So you can hear me, Maharaj?
Yeah.
It's all on paper, right? Okay. So now on the bodily concept of life, we have to get attachment to this body, and anything pertaining to this body, we have got attachment. Just like I have got attachment for my wife. Why? There are millions and thousands of women, beautiful women. I have no attachment for them, but my attachment for my wife, even though she may not be very beautiful, is a fact. Why? Because due to her relation with my body, and similarly, I have got attachment for my country. I have got attachment for my home, my so many things, because I'm thinking I'm this body, and anything in connection with this body, I'm thinking mine.
Okay. Thank you. I know that all of you know these things. Just trying to recollect something from Prabhupada's quotes to put things in perspective. We can invest our attachment. In other words, we can invest our emotionally charged attachment on many things also. You can be attached to things. You remember previously I asked you, can you have affection for things? So the reply was mostly, no, we cannot have affection for things. But can you have attachment for things? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can get attached to your car. You can get attached to your nice, cozy corner in your house. You can get attached to a particular type of, iPad or phone that you have. You can get attached to your particular costume, your frame, and all sorts of things you can get attached to. And Prabhupada is speaking here, your home, etc., etc. So now I'll ask you to define what is attachment vis-a-vis what we studied as affection. Okay? I want you to tell me what you can define attachment as in terms of what, in relation with what we studied affection as. Quickly. Anybody? Ratnaswami is your, Ratnaperi Swami is your hand up. You want to go at the definition? Maybe you're not there. Ambika Devi Dasi, please go ahead.
I'm here, Maharaj. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, she can go ahead. She can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Maharaj and Ratnam Prabhu. I wanted to say that how I understand attachment is that when it is painful to lose something, then there's an attachment, and then there's the suffering as well.
So why is it painful? A counter question to you, Ambika. Why is it painful?
It is because of the concept of mind.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yaji Z.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I would say attachment is a result of unresolved affection arising from our desires.
Okay. It's rooted in our desires. Thank you. Rasalila.
Maharaj, like when we invest too much emotionally, then we get attached.
Exactly. You're right. Attachment involves your mental state. It involves your conscious investment. If you read the purport of some of those purports of Prabhupada's in the Bharata Maharaja's incident, you'll see that he says categorically that he was unnecessarily, he invested attachment in the deer and he had to be punished for it. And Krishna punished him by putting him inside the body of a deer. And in the body of a deer, all of a sudden, lo and behold, he discovered, whoa, I'm in the body of a deer, and he could do nothing about it. Could do nothing. It was such a discovery for him. What a big mess I made of my chants. And he suffered a lot in the body of a deer, but he enjoyed a lot as Bharata Maharaj in the forest, his affection with the deer, which is mentioned that it is because of his good karma. His good karma came and disturbed his spiritual life. And then when he had bad karma in the body of a deer, he had the greatest realization. Why? Because he was able to actually be detached to a much greater extent. There's no other alternative. He's inside a deer's body. So it's an amazing arrangement of Krishna. I rap you on the wrist for doing this. When you are in the bhava stage, you went and invested in this unnecessarily. You needn't have done it. You need to be shaken up. So actually, Bharata Maharaj was feeling very happy that I'm personally being looked after by Krishna. I'm being punished by Krishna personally in the body of a deer. That's why you can see all those realizations when he becomes Jada Bharat. And so boldly he speaks to Maharaj Raghuna and said, you're a big fool. You think you're a very great guy. You don't know anything. He had the boldness to speak to Maharaj Raghuna, and Maharaj Raghuna immediately recognized him as somebody very great, who has a tremendous experience. I should surrender to him. That was what happened to him. Emotional investment he did in the deer. For a sannyasi to do that is sense gratification at a very subtle level. He as a sannyasi went to the forest and went around, fell in love with a deer. It was unnecessary investment. There was no need to do that he could have very well have done it in the palace. Yo dushchajan darasutan sukhrudrajyam hridi sprishaha juhau yuvaiva malavat uttama shloka lalasa. That he came, he gave up his deer, he gave up his wife, he gave up his children, he gave up his relatives, he gave up his treasury, his kingdom, and because of uttama shloka lalasa, because of great greed for Krishna. And he came to the forest and he forgot all that and invested in their deer. Totally unnecessary. Similarly, we invest our attachment in our mobile phones, in our devices, in unnecessary things, knowing fully the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, knowing fully the consequences and everything. So attachment is definitely something you should be very carefully managing. There is no doubt about it. Okay. So here we go again. I want to examine with you very quickly with the time we have less time. Quickly, a definition of attachment. So tell me now, anybody else wants to give me a definition of attachment? VIHE, what we studied in terms of affection. Anybody else? I can't see all the pics together. Okay. Okay, now, managing our emotions also is important, which I would say translates into managing our attachment. In other words, where do you invest it? Now, this is a deep internal management that you need to do. In other words, one thing in spiritual life is to seek width. The other thing in spiritual life is to seek depth. Depth means your own personal progress. Width means the things that you achieve in spiritual life externally. While we are in ISKCON, we have two types of things that can happen to us. We can be great book distributors and our names are known everywhere. We can be persons who build temples all over. We can have so many achievements, that I did this, I did that. I have so many followers. You can see me on Facebook. I have so many disciples. I have this, that. All this I call is spiritual width. But when you're managing affection, it's about spiritual depth inside of you. what do you actually do inside of you? Do you manage your emotions, your investment of your attachment? Now you look at this. Whole Krishna consciousness is about simultaneously managing my attachment and attraction and affection for matter and replacing that with attachment, affection for Krishna and his devotees. Yes, you need to do it. Because if you actually get attached to Krishna, yena kena prakarena mana Krishna niveshayat. That's what Nectar of Instruction also tells. Somehow or the other, 24 hours a day, you should look at how you can put your attachment and grow it on Krishna, not on anything else. So this becomes our internal struggle, our internal aim and goal, because we want to be bhava and prema and all that. We want to actually be situated there and have the real fruit of attachment. Attachment plays, you know that other shloka that if you, in Kapila Dev's instructions, you must have read. By the way, are you Bhaktivedanta students or Bhakti Vaibhav students or Bhakti Shastri students? I forgot asking. Am I right in saying that you're Bhakti Vaibhav students?
Hare
Bhakti
Krishna
Sat-
Maharaj. We are all from Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Sadachara, and Bhakti Vedanta as well.
Okay, you're a mix of all of them, right?
It's
Fine.
a mixed
So I'm-
group, Maharaj. All
Okay.
the
Okay, I'm in context. For a moment, I thought that. So you have studied Nectar of Devotion very well, and you've studied Bhagavatam, where you know, repeatedly you will see this mentioned by Prabhupada, the goal of life is to achieve love of God. See, even in the stage of bhava, you can slip on your attachment. That's Bharata Maharaj's story. So it is very subtle and it can slip out of your fingers very easily. Unless you are very much situated in yourself deeply and you're very vigilant about how your mind is telling you stories and which story you should attend to and which you should never attend to. Obviously, Maharaj Bharat has attended to a story of his mind and invested his attachment on the deer. We have a lot of stories that the mind makes up. The mind is something like a film director run amok inside. He creates so many wonderful plots and amazing stories and very attractive places where we can invest, especially around our existing, even as per Varnashrama, what we have around us, legitimate attraction and affection. Even that can be, what to speak of a deer, legitimate attraction, affection, that also can be a source of great danger. So managing our attraction towards Krishna, like I mentioned, is the definition of Krishna consciousness. And we must have attachment because we are conscious beings. And it is just that we are refocusing, taking off our attachment from matter, material things, and material personalities, and from that enjoyment of those very subtle Maya rasa and emotions, and pulling it out and putting it into Krishna and Krishna's devotees. So that's the management we do. Sorry, that's not for you. That's the management we need to do. So I'm going to stop here briefly and ask you to do a personal quick assignment on any instance, small or big, wherein you have managed your attachment well or not managed your attachment well. Two instances. One, I managed my attachment well quickly, and another one where I did not manage it well. I gave you instance of Bharata Maharaj who did not manage it well on a very high plane of, obviously. and Kunti Devi and others. Incidentally, I want to tell you about Kunti Devi. That Kunti Devi, yesterday we dealt, the last session we dealt with in terms of affection, but actually hers was a plea to Krishna to finish my attachment for Pandus. Sneha pasam imam chindi dridam pandushu vrishnushu. Sneha pasha. Sneha means attachment. Pasha means bondage. She's telling, I've got intimate bondage and attachment towards my sons Pandus. Cut them for me. Gange Vaugam Udanvati. I want, like the Ganges gushing down the Himalayas and flowing into the plains and finding its way into the sea in Ganga Sagara. I want my love for you to go and join you unimpeded like that. Cut my, she's actually asking Krishna, cut my attachment. Sneha pasam imam chindi. Chindi means cut it, my attachment. Imam Pandushu Vrishnushu, for my Pandavas. She's specific. And she says, this is where I'm being held. This is holding me and I'm not able to fully come to you. All this may sound very theoretical, very easy talk done by Bhakti Vinoda Swami, who is a sannyasi who never got married and never has invested in attachments and doesn't know anything, but it just speaks a lot. I'm sorry. I may sound like that, and it's true. I don't know. But you know, I got exposed to so many situations of people in attached situations and having suffering and problem and coming to you crying. All the world's story is about that only. It's about wrong investments that we do, or investments that we have already done that challenge our spiritual life, or stupid investments that we do, right? Or you're pulling out your investment and there's a problem. It's all about managing that. So, and I tend to counsel a lot of them about it, and I get insights without being in it, at least theoretically, you could say, to some extent. So true that I don't know so much, but all of you know much. That's why I'm asking you, you do a little exercise right now. Good management of the attachment that I did and I did not. Two things bring amongst yourself quickly. I give you exactly 2-3 minutes. Silence. You can put your videos off. I wouldn't ask you now if you want to. Two instances, one you managed well and one you didn't. Okay, yeah, there are two here who want to speak up on two investments. Is your hands raised for two investments? Briefly, you want to tell us? Yeah, go ahead, Ambika, and then Lokeshwari and Anarpita Kripamai.
Thank you, Maharaj. I wanted to express some experience about, I'm not sure whether I should put it in a category of good management or bad management, but then you have an association, for example, with a good friend, and then you form an attachment, but then something comes ahead, maybe a distance or something else that separates with the good friend. And then, of course, managing in that sense that I'm able to think of Krishna consciousness, and I'm able to think that, okay, maybe this was actually materialistic and I'm feeling sad about it. But of course, I'm reacting internally to that situation. So it's a little bit of both categories.
Very interesting what you said. You use the expression, I made a material investment. Okay. Yeah, I just want to use this Ambika's statement to ask a general question. So can we have a material investment of attachment in devotees, and will that become a source of disturbance to us? Do we do that? Do we sometimes have a material investment in our relationship with devotees, especially in attachment? And does it become a source of difficulty for us? Right? On the contrary, on the other side, you could actually have a spiritual relationship, in other words, a devotional relationship. And you will see it's a source of great pleasure, and it can grow and grow and grow. Or let me put it this way, there could be a hybrid version of this. Invariably, they'll have material sides. Of a lot of sadhakas have a material side and a spiritual, healthy, devotional side also. And friends means you don't pay much attention to the material side of it, and you keep it alive in the spiritual and devotional side, because that is more realistic than to look for a perfect person who will only be 100% pure spiritual and only then I will invest. That is utopian, right? So rather, the right thing would be my relationship will be a mix, but I'm going to not bother about this much. And he's also not disturbed, I'm not also disturbed, but he knows that something is wrong in his material side. And I can counsel him if he asks me, and he counsels me when I ask him. In this way, we each other counsel ourselves about our imperfections in terms of the material side. But on the spiritual side, we can grow our devotional relationship. Okay, this is what naturally will happen in mature relationships. Okay, thank you, Ambika. Let's Lokeshwari, and then Arpita, and then Ekanta Devidasi, and Patita Tarana Jagannath. That's it. I think that will bring us to the end of the session.
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Dhanavad Pranam, Maharaj.
Yeah.
So, I'm very much attached with my children, but when I have sent them to Gurukul, so then I managed my affection, Maharaj, for their future and their spiritual life. And when I'm very much attached with my mother also, but when she left for a few years, few months, then I could not manage, and I suffered physically and mentally to balance that situation. So that I did not manage. Here for my children, I managed.
Aha, interesting. Yeah, that's very nice. That's a very interesting study. You see, is it unnatural to have affection and attachment for your kids, kith and kin, and for people around you?
No, it is
Yeah,
not.
it's not at all unnatural. In fact, if you did not have it, you'll be highly artificial.
Yes.
You will be not a human being. So, it's about balancing these things nicely, and it's different for different people.
Yes.
Right? So, you know that it is happening to you when it's destroying your spiritual perspectives. And then you have to shift a little bit. But it's not that you need to give it up. Don't have to take sannyas and run away immediately. Some people do that. As soon as it becomes difficult, they renounce and then they jump back, and then they jump out. They make a complete mess of everything. But it's about balancing and managing. That's why I'm using the word managing it. Sometimes you may have to go through this, sometimes you have to go through that. Kunti Devi went through all sorts of swings in her this thing, but on an average, she did it very good. She landed up with Krishna finally. Okay, I just wanted to comment that. Thank you, Lokeshwari, for your comment. Thank you very much. Who is the next one? I said.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Anarpita.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Danvat.
Yeah.
So, Maharaj, actually, I have attachment with my body and with my family also. So, I manage my this attachment because we have a base in Mayurvihar. So, through my counselor, I got the responsibility to preach there. So I have to, for just that I go to preach there. Sometime I leave separate from my family to preach there twice in a day. It's a little bit discomfort to me because in a family, it's a very cozy, so many facilities, and in a base, so many difficulties for the our daily schedule, which facilities we get in home that we cannot get in base. So that discomfort,
especially in winter,
that discomfort I manage for the pleasure of Lord. I think that I should take this initiate. So who will take this initiate? Suppose I will not take. So this way I manage my attachment towards my body and my family. It helps me also that because one day I have to leave everything. I think so. Whenever this thought come in my mind, or don't go, I think that one day I have to leave everything. So why should not I practice this to leave for 2 days at least? So this way I think. And
okay, yeah.
Another incident is I will not say that to manage that, but it is totally cut. Actually, my mother left the body while COVID situation, so it was very tough for me to just manage that situation. But earlier I read the Bhagavad Gita, and I had association of some good devotees. By their help, I could manage that situation. I was just read Bhagavad Gita twice, thrice, and I just took the association of some pure devotees and good devotees. They helped me a lot. I was asking many questions, and in this way, I could not just came in such a illusion or dilemma, why my mother has left body, and where she will go, what will be happen with her. So I was just praying for her. Whatever practice I am doing, reading Bhagavad Gita, chanting every day 16 rounds extra, I was giving everything. I was giving my offering to her. Oh Krishna, please protect her. Oh Krishna, please help her. In this way, I could manage that time. Gradually, that time has gone, and I could overcome from this by the help of devotees and help of Bhagavad Gita. So this was the thing.
Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Nice. Thank you, Anarpita. Patita Tarana Jagannath Das.
Yes. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Yeah.
Today's session was very interesting, especially because I was having this, because what recently happened, especially for this year, 2021, through my online preaching, with fresh people, I mean, new devotees, through that Gita Gyan program, I've successfully distributed something like 5,400 Bhagavad Gita.
Ooh.
And more than 100 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, thank you. So all this while I was telling, I was just saying that all this effort is through that new devotees. I mean, those new people who came and joined me, because from the day one, I'm emphasizing on book distribution. Then so whoever asked, I said, no, it's not not by me, but through them, through these new devotees who came and went and create a marathon, and so we have done it. So I was thinking that I was not attached to any what they call any of these achievement, because it's not me but others. But as what you have said, Maharaj, just now, like subtly that kind of ego was that what they growing in myself, that say that even in Malaysia no one can smash the record because I've done it through new devotees. If any individual want to do that, they definitely can't do it. But of course, they can't do it because I've done it with new devotees. So when certain authorities was like not recognizing my the achievement, I got upset. Then after that I was thinking, what actually is running in my mind? I'm saying that I'm not attached to the result, I'm not attached to that success of this distribution, but at the same time I get some kind of upset. That means I was attached to that result. So like today when you're saying about this Jada Bharat story, so I think I've realized how subtly that attachment can seep in, as what you have said, that it can just indirectly, it just can go away from you, it just can go through your finger. So it was such a wonderful thing, Maharaj.
Terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Right. Anybody else would like to exchange their things? Well, I'll give you another 5 minutes. I think I'm already over by 4 minutes, but I am attached to all of you, and I'm trying to take the best out of this session to get more and more, but Prashanta Mataji will not allow me to extend it beyond the breakfast time, because today is Dwadashi and you must all be drooling in the mouth already to taste some grains. I don't want to stop it. It's all so difficult, but still I'm trying to do it. Rasalila and Lalita Priti.
Maharaj, you're putting words in my mouth.
I thought I'm putting some prasadam.
Thank you, done already.
Dwadashi. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Rasalila.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I get attached to the persons who does Krishna conscious very nicely. Whenever I see around me that, oh wow, she's doing Krishna conscious very nicely. Oh wow, he's doing. So I get too much attached. And in one instance, the same person, like I was seeing her doing Krishna conscious very nicely, and she gave me a little jerk. She gave me a jerk, a very, very bad jerk. And it just reminded me, oh my God, what I am doing. And still, and whenever it happens, I simply remember the verse of Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Matra Spashas to Konteya, tolerate, Rasalila, tolerate. These are the jerks from Krishna. Then I could manage. And yes, it took time to overcome, but yes, I could manage just after remembering this verse.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Lalita Priya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So the first situation was like where I couldn't manage my emotions. It was during my school days. I had a best friend, and we both were really attached with each other. And on my 9th standard summer holidays, every day I used to chant one round extra, praying to Krishna that we both should be in the same section. The teacher should not shuffle us. But then after 10th, for 11th, I choose commerce, and she went for science group. So this was really hard for me to take up.
Wow, but that's because you didn't pray that she should also choose the same group.
Yes, Maharaj, I didn't pray for that. And then she was okay, but I was so much emotionally attached to her. I was broken from inside. But then soon after a few months, I found another few set of friends. Then I was a bit okay. This was one situation. And second situation where I could manage my emotions was my first year of Bhakti Shastri in VIHE. Prashanta Mataji, she gave me the service of doing rangolis for Rupotsav festival at VIHE. And my friends and myself, we did a great work of rangolis. and there was a heavy rainfall in the night. But then I was thinking, oh my God, we did so much work. Now what will I do? Then I just remembered in Bhakti Shastri, we had completed the shloka in which Krishna says, your work is endeavor, result is mine. Giving result is mine. So then I remembered that verse and I could manage the emotions.
Okay, it was a Rangoli washout. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, Rajeshwar Gauranga, and then sit. You can all go run for breakfast.
Hare Krishna,
Which means I
Maharaj.
really want to run for breakfast too.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, actually, I have some questions. So may I ask?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Maharaj, Mathas Kuntiyo and Dhyata Vishana Samgastapade, that slokas and so many instructions given by Krishna to Arjun. But still, when Abhimanyu died, Abhimanyu was killed. So then Arjun was crying, was full of emotions, So still he was lamenting. So that is, of course, due to some sort of attachment. Otherwise, why he was so much emotional. So my question is, after giving instruction, a lot of instruction is still devotees sometimes, is that the devotees sometimes they still have some emotion, will have some emotions that is due to a sort of attachment or something else. So this is, I have a few more questions, Maharaj. So should I present those questions or one by one I can ask?
No, we'll answer this first. I did make a statement, and some others also echoed and reflected that in your position as a grihastha, which I presume you are because I think Mataji is sitting next to you. In your position as a grihastha, definitely you have a right to yata yogya yunja, to indulge in attachment. Otherwise, how can a couple be reasonably situated? Right? I tell husband and wife that we have to get attached to each other. Otherwise, why did you get married at all? Grihastha life is about that. Then only it produces, there is ato griha kshetra sutapta vittai. All that will happen after that only. And that's how it becomes a griha. So therefore, that is an element. But the Shastra is saying that you have to do it carefully. You have to have lines and drawn. Because it's impossible for human beings to be without getting attached. They're not robots. They're not some zombies. They're not machines moving around. So that is where is the challenge. Most people cannot understand that. What Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, and all the things that we hear in the Bhagavad, you have to manage your attachment. If you're interested in spiritual life, you have to manage your attachment. We have to theoretically know. We have to have knowledge. And the knowledge becomes the impetus, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And then you hear about Krishna Katha, you hear about great devotees, and the impetus to achieve that increases. And therefore, you have a greater desire to manage the attachment, right? And after a certain time, you can give it up. That's allowed in Varnashrama, that Vanaprastha and Sannyasa that you do. These are all the ways these things are done. So it's not at all unnatural that you have affection. What we are trying to say, what the Bhagavatam is trying to say is, you must have, otherwise you can't be a conscious living being. But you direct it towards Krishna. Because all these other places where you have directed it to are all temporary and they'll give you disappointment. But if you direct it towards Krishna, it will be permanently growing and giving you great happiness. That's what the whole philosophy is about. You cannot be without it because that is the main function that relates you to Krishna. It is just that now you've taken it out of Krishna and put it on something else, and you've been asked to put it back. It's not something very bad that's being asked of you. It's for your good only. So while you're in the material world, we need to balance both our material life and our, and for material life, we do need a certain amount of attachment and to look after. Children don't grow if the mother doesn't show affection to the children. They grow out of love and care, especially in the first 5 years. That's psychiatry and psychology of kids and research and everything. So the mother is to be completely occupied and given all the time with the child, because the child is growing psychologically, growing physically, brain is getting shaped up. They're saying all sorts of things now. They're saying all sorts of things now, right? So you have to be there. So how can you stop that? How can a mother say, according to spiritual life, I should not be attached to my child. I can disown my child, put it in the orphanage or put it somewhere else. Very rude, brash, and highly wrong, right? So we have to be, like I mentioned to you yesterday, be practical, recognize our conditioned status in full knowledge, and then carefully tread on these temporary investments, but always be interested in the main. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, maybe I got your answer. I got the answer of another question, but still I'm presenting it like when my Guru Maharaj departed. So, I mean, just last year. So then devotees are very much emotional. I mean, so much pain was there in the heart, still there. And Narottam Das Thakur also wrote a song that Pashane Kuthibo, Matha Onole Poshibo. So that is so much painful. So what about the spiritual attachment, like spiritual attachment, attachment for spiritual master, and which is actually intolerable, unbearable actually. So that attachment, do you have anything to say regarding this, Maharaj?
Well, that's a very delicate thing. Different people have different types of relationships and feelings. That's a big ocean of a discussion. But generally speaking, our attachment to the spiritual master, especially attachment to his Vani, should actually give you more energy and enthusiasm to perform devotional service to Krishna. If we are a little mature in spiritual life, passing away of the spiritual master doesn't really mean that he is not in existence anymore in your life. It simply means the Vapu existence is not there. That's the only thing. But some people are more attached to that portion of it, so they feel a lot of things. Some people are attached to the Vani portion, don't really get disturbed so much, but go ahead and do fantastic preaching and everything else, meditating on the instructions of the Guru. So I think that you are getting a lesson on how to be more attached to Vani than Vapu, because you already did what you're supposed to do while the Vapu was present. Now you have to shift to the Vani. And in the Vani, you can also be more enriched and feel the presence. Prabhupada's life, he said, they are thinking, when he's walking along Bhaktisiddhanta Road in Mayapur, somebody commented that, see, Bhaktivedanta Swami doesn't come to his Guru Maharaj's Samadhi and pay obeisances and all that. So Prabhupada said, they are thinking that he's sitting inside that place. They don't know that he's walking next to me, giving me instructions on how to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. They don't understand. He said that actually, because he was constantly in touch with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, because he was carrying out his instruction and others were not able to do it. So he said, I am living on the Vani and he is present with me. So that's a powerful quote from Prabhupada's life too. I don't know whether that helped you. Okay. Thank you, Rajeshwar Gauranga. And the last question is from Ratnam Periyaswamy.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have one question. Please clarify one clarification, Maharaj. Right? Because I feel, Maharaj, that devotees are natural and we should be natural in all situations. And only thing we can have attachment, but we should not attach to the result of the attachment, right, Maharaj? Suppose we are driving, we should have to be involved 100% in driving, or whatever we do, we should have to involve. Without attachment, we cannot do the task very good, even in spiritual or in material. Even in spiritual and material, we should not attach to the result. Am I right, Maharaj? That's what I'm asking.
Yes,
we should
that
have
already
attachment.
Is mentioned by Krishna. And he told Arjuna, Karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, that famous shloka. He told that do it for me and you don't get attached to the result. You just perform nimitta matram bhava savya sachin and you leave the rest to me. So when we perform devotional service, like you rightly said, we could also do it in the detached mode.
Yeah,
but
correct.
then the problem comes is, if you're not attached, how can you do it properly?
Yeah.
So your statement is right, that we should be attached to do it perfectly nicely, and we should be detached from the results of it.
Yeah, correct, man. That's what I mean.
That's a nice thing. That's a very good way of understanding it. True. We should be attached and executing things in high-class way for Krishna.
Yes.
And then rest is up to Krishna. I did my best. Whatever inspiration he gave me, I did my best. And if it doesn't happen like this, that's up to Krishna. This is Krishna's instruction to Arjuna also.
Yes. This is what I think, Maharaj. We should not take anything to the mind. That means we should do our duty, but we should not anything in expectation or anything in result. We should not.
That's why a person who can do that is called a yogi. Because Krishna says yoga karma kaushalam. The art of performing work in this world is called yoga. That you do it with attachment, but you don't get attached to the fruit. It's very intricately explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, and you rightly pinned it. That's it. It's called the art of performing work. Today they are talking in the secular world about work-life balance, and all that. They neither know what is work, nor do they know what their life is.
Correct.
That's why it's totally in imbalance. Even the talk on work-life balance is out of balance. That's what I've seen. If they read Bhagavad Gita, they'll know what it really means.
Yes.
And Arjuna is asking penetrating questions on these things. He keeps telling that, why are you confusing me? Vyamishreneva vakyena buddhim mohaya shivame. Tadekam vadanischitya yenishayo apmaya. Just tell me correctly, you're confusing me. He asked very pointed questions at Krishna. And Krishna also, answered it deeper and greater detail. In the 3rd chapter, you'll see, in the 5th chapter also, you'll see. It's all about work. Until up the 18th chapter, it's about work.
Yes.
How to do work. That's a central piece. Yeah. Thank you, Ji. Ratna Swami. I'm sorry, Ratnam Periya Swami.
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank all of you for your interest and for your contribution in this session and for your presence. Thank you very much for giving me your darshan.
Thank you so much.
Tolerating me for 2 days.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. I hope
Krishna.
Prashanta Mataji is happy, because that's one of the main reasons I'm here, to honor her request and to make her feel happy. So I want to hear, are you okay?
Yeah, we are very satisfied, Maharaj. This topic was, can somebody mute themselves? These topics that you have dealt with were very practical, I think, in the life of all the devotees. This is something that everyone deals with practically on a daily basis, how to manage the emotions, the attachment. Basically, this affection is naturally there, as you say, and how will it not turn into attachment? That is the art of yoga. So, and it can cause major disasters in one's life if we are not able to manage that. I would say that the thing that we have to recognize always is, am I doing it for myself, or am I doing it for the other person's benefit? That's the difference between the two. We can be affectionate, but as soon as we start enjoying,
gratification.
The gratification, as soon as we start taking instead of giving affection, we are getting something in return. Then that's when the red flag should come. Unfortunately, Maya is so wonderful that many times people realize, afterwards that this is what has happened. So it was a very wonderful introspective session, these 2 sessions. And I hope that the devotees are going to always remember actually this class and apply it in their lives to be saved from major diversions, sometimes in Krishna consciousness. So it was great, Maharaj. It was wonderful. And we'll be looking forward some other time, after some time, whenever you can make time. we'll be happy to invite you again.
Thank
So we
you.
wish you all the best in your endeavors of
I am
preaching.
happy that you're happy.
Yes.
Jashmin tushte jagat tushta is what we say. By pleasing Krishna, we can be happy. So I'm happy that you're pleased. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Have a great breakfast.
Hare Hare Bol.
Have a bang of a Ekadashi. I mean, Dwadashi.